Okay, hello. Welcome to this next step of the formative project of the Business Leadership 1. This is a workshop perspective of our course. Remember that you are learning by doing. In this case, we are trying to apply the key concepts and the general basic concepts of planning in your personal leadership development plan. First of all, we need to understand these characteristics of the plan. The first thing is that it's personal. It means that it's for you and for a specific focus, which is leadership development. So first of all, in the first part of the workshop, of the course, you saw some of the characteristics of leadership. You saw which is the positive leadership action perspective, and you identified in an introspective process which are the characteristics that you will like to develop in at least 2 years of practice. Okay, so let's remember where we are now in our formative project. We need to produce two principal products in our project. First of all, we need to produce our personal leadership development plan, and then our social leadership team plan. Both of them are integrated and interrelated. And remember that at the end of the course, you are going to deliver an individual report with a very good presentation, with a table of contents, all complete, with all the feedback given to you, integrated. And also, you are going to produce a very executive presentation of your social leadership team plan. The social leadership team plan will have parts of the personal leadership development plan of each of the individuals that are inside your team. Okay, in order to be focused on that problem, necessity, or opportunity, and also to develop your own leadership skills or values you want to put in the center. Okay, so remember these are the steps. These are the steps we are focusing on. Time is passing very fast. So in this week, you're going to work in your personal leadership development plan, and in the other week, you're going to work in the problems, necessities, and opportunity, putting together the personal development leadership plan and teamwork, and in the social leadership team plan. Both of the steps are going to be done, not the next week, but the other week. And also, you're going to integrate finally how you're going to implement it and deliver your final presentation. Let's remember that you have just chosen one of these 3 general topics. These 3 general topics are very important because they are focused on a specific near basis environment of you and your social impact around you, which is, first of all, the Prepa Anahuac community. That is the first general topic, remember. The second is a proposal which is good for your community in Morelia. And the other is a problem or a necessity that eventually, if it's proved to be a good idea, could be transformed in the future as a prototype of a product. But maybe there is not an idea and there is not a prototype because there is a lack of leadership in the 3 general topics. Okay, So what are you going to do this week? Listen very carefully. You're going to produce your own plan. We saw in the synchronic session that the structure of a plan in the management process, that you remember that the management process is planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. We are focusing on planning. And planning in all organizations must begin with a diagnosis. We need to know where we are now, and in order to understand and target where are we going to move on and in which velocity are we going to move to that point, and with which resources are we going to move to that point. In an organization perspective, you also have a strategic planning, a tactical planning, and an operational planning. And all of those planning perspectives are aligned. Okay, in your personal leadership development plan is the same structure as you will find in organizations, in any kind of organization. So in another step, you worked on your personal SWOT analysis leadership skills, remember? And that is an input for this planning process. If you don't have a good SWOT analysis or a good leadership skills identification, maybe you're going to work a little bit more in this process in order to refine your planning process. So which are the 4 steps you're going to write down in your report? Well, first of all, you will have to point clearly which are your personal leadership values to develop. Now you have to select them. Very careful. You have just worked with them, and now you're going to say, okay, I'm going to use this and this and this value, at least 3 values. And I recommend you to choose values that are a little bit integral, no? And that are also aligned with your characteristic, your personality characteristics, character and temperament characteristics, in order to be easier for you to implement this development leadership plan. The second part is to state and write down your vision. Okay, you began in one of the steps writing a vision and a proposal, but now you have to refine it and write down your vision. Okay, your vision must have some kind of element, some elements that we've been talking about. Okay, the first one is that the vision needs to have the leadership skills or values you want to develop. Also, it must have implicit or explicit the problem necessity that you would like to work on the next 1.5 years. So it's going to be explicit there. And also, it must be clearly defined and aspirational for the future. In this case, we're not going to use 10 years or 20 years or 15 years, which are the visions of organizations. We're going to use a short-term vision, but maybe if you finish your high school, maybe you take that vision for your university studies and for your professional life, and we will see a really mature leader guiding some important aspects of Mexico, or for international aspects, or for your organization, or whatever you set in your life in a positive manner. So that is the vision. The mission, you have to state the reason of being. Then you're going to write down your strategic objectives, at least 3 strategic objectives. The strategic objectives are general. They are not numeric. You say beginning with an infinitive, okay? And then it must have some kind of time and space and also impact of the objective. What are you going to do, where, what, and how, but not what, how many, not what many, how many, okay? And you are going to write down at least 3 of these strategic objectives. For each of these strategic objectives, you're going to write down at least 2 goals. The difference between an objective and a goal is that a goal is numeric. In a goal, we say how much or how many of a specific activity is going to be done. For example, we can say that we are going to diminish poverty. In a general, not in this case, we're going to diminish poverty by 2025. No? And that's all. We don't put a number. In a goal, we are going to say we're going to diminish poverty by 5% each year until 2025. Okay? And maybe we add a space and we say in Morelia. Or maybe if we say we are going to end poverty by 5% each year in the eastern part of Morelia until 2025. Okay, so you are writing, or you are specifying clearly time, space, and numerical quantifiable actions. Okay, so let's see very fast each of these parts of your report. The first one is your personal leadership value to develop. What are you going to do? You're going to take from your personal introspection you have just done and write down at least 3 of these personal leadership values and skills, or both of them. Or maybe you can write down a value, a leadership value, and then you write how you translate it to a skill you have to develop. Okay? Honesty, a leadership which is honest and has integrity, that is a value. But how you translate that as a skill? Okay? So you're going to write down values and you're going to write down skills. Leadership value versus leadership skill. And the skill is the one that you are going to translate finally to a goal. You're going to select at least 3 and you're going to briefly describe. Okay, then we have the vision and mission statement. So, what are you going to do here? Well, first of all, you need to know that a mission in an organization is the same as the mission you are going to write down in a personal perspective. The mission is the reason for being. Why Apple Computers company exists. Why Prepa Anahuac Morelia exists. And now that is the mission, that's the reason of being. What do we exist? What do we deploy a lot of resources, time, and effort of a lot of people doing something like an organization? Now you're going to focus on yourself. What defines the reason for being? But for being of what? In this case, the reason of developing your leadership. What is our, in that case, your leadership development purpose? What is it? What do we want to be? And who we are? Which necessity or problem we will personally be focused on? And also the mission provides the framework, the guideline principles, and the direction of your personal development plan. Okay? So you will have to write, you have to research, for example, different kind of missions of organizations, and then you adequate it for your personal mission using the specific values and insert the problem there. Then your vision is the aspirational aspect of what you want to do. How you see yourself as a leader in 2 years. Then take the skeleton of your vision statement and craft it to something special for your future. And then in the vision, you will have to answer this question. How my positive action leadership will focus in the daily basis. Well, then the last 2 parts of the report is writing down the strategic objectives and then writing down the goals. So where are the inputs to write down the strategic objectives? That remember that they also, as strategic objectives and goals, begin with an infinitive verb. So the inputs are your personal contextual diagnosis that you have just done, your SWOT analysis, your problem identification as a team, your leadership values, and your leadership skills. With that in mind, I recommend you to understand specific areas, general areas where you will have to be better. It could be areas, your personal areas, your academic areas, or your problem solution areas, or maybe it could be areas of thematic areas, like developing skills or capacities, like be proactive in my school, like generate new ideas for a better life, or whatever. You design these general ideas, these general topics, where you are going to be focused on your strategic objectives. And you're going to write down at least 3 of them, okay? Those strategic personal objectives are aligned with your leadership development, okay? Leadership development in 2 years. And which kind of leadership? Your positive action leadership. Then you're going to write down at least 3 goals. Remember, they are numerical expressions and space and time specific. Recommend you to follow the SMART principles of writing down goals. What is the SMART focus of the goals? Well, they are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic or relevant, and time-related. What does that mean? Specific. You need to say specifically what are you going to do in numbers. How many activities you're going to deliver, how many of something. So it must have a specific number that you're going to do in 1.5 years. Remember that this plan is for 1.5 years. Okay, is your plan to be deployed by you until you finish your high school. In order to finish your high school and say, okay, I have developed my leadership skills. So the better you write down your plan, also the better effectiveness of your leadership skills to be developed. Okay? Measurable is to make sure your goal is trackable. Attainable is work towards a goal that is challenging but possible. If you say, I'm going to, my strategic goal is to obtain the Semper Altius prize at the end of your high school, and you have all the characteristics to obtain it, well, maybe that is your goal, your personal goal, to obtain that. Focus on that. But try to be realistic and try to write down that goal in an attainable way also, that is possible. So you have to write down really clearly what are you going to do in order to obtain that prize, for example. So or maybe you want to to really be involved in the problem. You are focused like a team. Well, focus your goals in order to obtain good results. Be honest and realistic with yourself. You know what you and your team are capable of. Okay, be realistic. It doesn't matter if it's not really the big thing, but it's graspable. And at the end you say, oh, I did this. If I didn't have my plan, maybe I won't do anything. I won't have done anything. I wouldn't have done anything. No? I wouldn't have done anything. So the time related is give yourself a deadline. And finally, you will have your table of content. The table of content of this third report is individual, and it must have these parts, the table of content. Personal leadership values to develop. Okay, remember, step your values, your skills, and describe them. Personal vision statement, really refine, well analyzed, and put it there. How you see in 1.5 years in your leadership development plan process. Finally, your personal mission, your strategic personal objectives, your goal linked with each strategic objective, and the conclusions of the activity. Okay, you have 1 week to write down your personal leadership development plan, and please really use this opportunity to really think of yourself, to think how you want to change yourself and to change the things that are around you and really transform yourself as a change agent. Being a change agent is not easy, because a change agent is not conform, is not tranquil with the things that person sees around. He wants to change, and sometimes there are problems, sometimes there are difficulties, but there are the people that this world needs. Okay, so that is the activity you are going to work on. So work hard.